All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Great to see you all today. My name's Liz Medford, and I'm going to be speaking to you today about mental fitness. So let me go ahead and share my screen with you here. Just bear with me a moment. Always fun starting these Zoom calls and getting everything going. All right. So just those of you who are here live, just give me a thumbs up if you're able to see the slides right now. Looks good. Okay. Fantastic. So I'm here today to speak to you about mental fitness, how to build the 3 core mental muscles to thrive in challenging times. So again, I am Liz. My website is unperfectionism.com, and I'm a life coach. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself here. So I help clients let go of perfectionism and other self-sabotaging behaviors so they can be happier and more productive. And my tagline here is less perfect equals more happy. And I'm going to be talking to you today a bit about a number of those self-sabotaging behaviors and some techniques to quiet them down. So I'm a certified professional coactive coach through the Coaches Training Institute, CTI. I'm also a PQ Pioneer coach. I'll tell you a little bit more later on about what that means, but I'm trained in this methodology by its founder, Shirzad Chamine. I'm also trained in internal family systems, which is another type of parts work model, IFS, and dialectical behavior therapy. So I offer one-on-one coaching, and I also offer a group program called the Positive Intelligence Program, which I'll speak about later on in this slideshow. And I have a PQ membership of folks who have been through this 6-week program and are doing this work ongoing. So again, information about me and my work is available at unperfectionism.com. So the framework I'm going to be speaking about today was developed by Shirzad Chamine, who is a leadership coach. He works primarily with executives in Fortune 100 companies. And he's written a New York Times best-selling book called Positive Intelligence, which some of you are maybe familiar with. And so it's why the tagline, why only 20% of teams and individuals achieve their true potential and how to achieve yours. So what I'm presenting to you today was developed by Shirzad, and I've been working with him this past year to really master these skills in this framework myself that I'm sharing with you today. So the concept of mental fitness that we're going to be talking about. I want to give you an analogy of mental fitness to physical fitness. So here on the screen, you can see an image of somebody standing on top of a pretty big mountain up above the clouds. And so you can imagine that if you wanted to climb this mountain, depending, assuming that you're not already an elite athlete or something like that, you would probably need to do some training for it because if you just, oops, oh my goodness, my dog just knocked over something. This is live on Zoom, people. It's okay, Baxi. So, all right. So mental fitness is akin to physical fitness in that if you're going to climb a mountain, you're probably going to want to train for it. So you might start going for some walks around your block. You might climb some smaller hills and mountains and work your way up and train your muscles so that you can get to the point where you can physically do this. And I've done this in the past, like training for marathons and climbing big peaks. And so you build up your muscles over time, and mental fitness is very similar. So with mental fitness, it's like, we might have kind of a baseline level of mental fitness where we can handle the everyday things that happen, like, getting stuck in traffic or burning your casserole or something. We can recover from most of those types of things pretty quickly. But then when it comes to A bigger challenge, like earlier this year, finding out that we were in the midst of a global pandemic and all of the uncertainty around that. Or maybe for somebody, it's the loss of a job, the loss of a loved one, having an illness. These are the kinds of challenges in life that can really sideline us and cause us to get kind of overtaken by our fears and our negative thoughts and emotions if we haven't built up the mental muscles that we need in order to be resilient. So again, kind of have this baseline mental fitness level, and then all of a sudden we get a Mount Everest of a life challenge thrown at us, and we just simply don't have the mental muscles built up in order to be able to face that with resilience. So the good news, and what I'll talk about today, is how we can build up our level of mental fitness to be able to handle even life's greatest challenges. So the definition of mental fitness is your capacity to respond to life's challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset. And the impact of your level on mental fitness in different areas of your life, it impacts peak performance, peace of mind, wellness, and of course, the health of your relationships. So this framework is rooted in a really robust foundation of research in the fields of neuroscience, positive psychology, cognitive psychology, and performance science. And all of these scientific fields have been combined in Shirzad's work and his framework that he calls positive intelligence, or PQ. So if you hear me saying PQ, PQ is like IQ, it's just an abbreviation for positive intelligence quotient. So the research that goes into it includes results from hundreds of CEOs and their executive teams that Shirzad has worked with, Stanford students whom he's lectured over the years, world-class athletes, over 500,000 participants from 50 countries and growing. And again, the research is summarized in his New York Times best-selling book, Positive Intelligence, which has been translated into 20 languages. And so I share that because this, I'm in the United States, Shirzad is in the United States, but this is not a framework that just applies to American culture or Western culture. This work has been done all around the world in different cultures, different countries, and has been shown to be effective cross-culturally. So this framework's based on the power of factor analysis, which is all about discovering the root cause of something and results really in a radical simplification. So for example, the image here, at the root of thousands of colors are only 3 factors. You have red, blue, and yellow that can make almost any color in the rainbow. So it's a distillation really of what is at the root of what's going on. So this factor analysis research, through this factor analysis research, Shirzad has shown that there are only 3 core muscles that are at the root of mental fitness. And he calls them the saboteur interceptor, the sage, and the self-command muscle. So these terms may sound funny now, but by the end of our time together, hopefully you'll have a clearer understanding of what they mean. All right, so saboteurs and sage, what's that all about? Well, this image shows that it's really kind of like we have 2 different brains in our heads. We have one that is driven by these saboteur negative thoughts, and then we have another that is driven by sage types of thoughts that are positive. And Shirzad likes to use the analogy that it's kind of like we have an inner war between our inner Darth Vader or the saboteurs and our inner Jedi or the sage. So if you're a Star Wars fan, perhaps you'll connect with that metaphor. So Shirzad's identified 10 saboteurs that we all have. We may not have them all, but they are all there kind of to some degree in most people. And then we have one sage, which is our true inner self, kind of our core self that, you know, if you have a spiritual inclination, maybe it's a part of you that's like connected to the universe or the divine. And within that core self, it's 5 sage powers. So I'll be talking more about that. So our first mental muscle to build is the saboteur interceptor muscle. So this is learning to identify which of these saboteurs we have when they are acting up and be able to intercept them so that they don't take over our minds. So the first saboteur, the ringleader saboteur that everybody has is called the judge. And then there's a cast of characters that has been defined by this matrix. You don't really need to worry about the particulars of it, but these 9 accomplished saboteurs that work with the judge, and I'll speak a little bit more about each of them. So our judge saboteur is the part that finds fault with ourselves, with others, and with circumstances. So our judge says, if I don't push myself, I'll get lazy. If I don't punish myself for mistakes, I won't learn from them. And so we judge ourselves, again, judge others and circumstances. We judge others in order to feel better about ourselves, judging somebody's appearance or their weight or their political or philosophical positions. And our judge causes much of our disappointment, anger, regret, guilt, shame, and other negative emotions. So our accomplished saboteurs include the avoider. So the avoider is the saboteur that gets us procrastinating and avoiding tasks and projects or conflicts and conversations that are unpleasant. The avoider can provide us with some short-term relief by avoiding these things. But then in the long run, as the deadlines approach or the conflicts fester, these tasks become a lot bigger, more unpleasant, and our avoider can make us feel constantly anxious. The controller is a saboteur that makes us think that we control an outcome to get better results and better quality work. So if we just micromanage people and tell them what to do, things will turn out better, we think, because we think we know everything. In the short term, it might have a positive impact, but in the long term, it has a negative impact. So like if you've had a boss that micromanages, team members might stop taking initiative because they think whatever that they do is wrong. So it can create a cycle of people not taking risks and not taking initiative and not growing and becoming more capable. This, of course, can happen in parenting and other arenas as well. So all of these saboteurs kind of promise us some breadcrumbs, thinking that they're getting us a little bit of something positive, but really in the end, they have negative results. So our hyperachiever saboteur, this is when we base our identity on our accomplishments. So like if things don't go as planned, then your sense of self-worth is on the line. You know, if I don't get that promotion, then I'm not good enough. If I don't get the A, then it means I'm a failure. That's what our hyperachiever tells us. So the issue is if there's a glitch or we get stressed, we end up wasting energy, making other people freak out, and before we can start making any more progress. And as a leader, for a hyperachiever leader, there can be less loyalty and inspiration from your team if it's all about you. And yes, you end up achieving less and not more. So the hyper-rational is another saboteur. This is a saboteur that makes us think that all decisions are best made using the rational part of our brains. So it may show up as like trying to fix other people's problems, but without really empathizing with them. And people might experience that as being cold, insensitive, intellectually arrogant. You know, if you come home from work and you're trying to talk to your partner or your friend or somebody about something that happened, and they just immediately dive into problem solving without really empathizing with how you feel, it can not feel great. So the thing is, unless people feel their emotions are heard and responded to, then they're not going to hear whatever brilliant solution you might have. The hyper-vigilant saboteur is one that makes us think we have to be constantly anxious and nervous in order to protect ourselves and our loved ones. So it tells us like that if we're always on the lookout for what could possibly go wrong, then we can keep ourselves and other people safe. It's rooted in that primitive part of our brain, the fight, flight, or freeze response. The problem is if we're constantly in fear, then we actually cannot activate those critical thinking, higher order parts of our brain in order to find the creative solutions. And we cry wolf so many times, people just stop paying attention to it. So the pleaser saboteur is another one that can make us think that we can have better relationships and have people like us if we're constantly giving and being nice and being pleasant. But the thing with the pleaser is that if we avoid having difficult conversations with people, then they actually don't trust us as much. We tend to keep saying yes when we want to say no, so people take advantage and then we start to feel resentful. And actually does not have people feel closer to us in the long run, which is what it promises. People can actually start to feel alienated or pushed away. The restless saboteur. This is kind of an insidious one, I think, because many of us, especially in Western cultures at least, and probably many others around the world, pride ourselves in multitasking and in being able to do all the things and just saying yes to everything. So the restless saboteur is the one that has us really jumping from one thing to another, always looking for the next shiny object, being super, super busy, with all the things we think are great in our life. But what happens is that in an effort to live more fully, we're actually really not present to life at all because we're constantly doing. There's no space to actually be. So it can damage our performance because we're spreading ourselves too thin among too many things, and in the end we accomplish less and not more. So this is one that I've been doing a lot of work on, and I've actually found it very helpful to quiet this saboteur for myself. And one of our favorites at Unperfectionism is the Stickler. So this is the saboteur that has us thinking that by creating like perfect order around us and high quality, if everything goes right, then we'll be satisfied and we'll feel peaceful. Our stickler often tells us that other people's work isn't good enough. I have to do it myself. The issue is that trying to do everything perfectly makes you run out of time. And then you actually, there maybe the 20% of things that you really did need to get done and do well doesn't get done because you're spending all your time and energy on the other 80%. So this creates massive anxiety because you're always falling behind on things. And last but not least, we have the victim saboteur. This is maybe one of the less popular saboteurs for people to really acknowledge or admit to in their lives. A lot of us think that, oh, well, if I'm hyperachieving or if I'm, stickler, attentive to detail or pleasing others, like then we kind of maybe take pride in some of those things. Nobody really wants to be thought of as a victim. So if that's you, then maybe, look inside and just see if any of this might be true about you or certainly maybe someone you know. So the victim is always seeking love and attention from others through self-pity. So this might show up as complaining about everything to try and get attention. So the victim is really seeking this love, but people get tired of it and they kind of drift away. Victims often tend to blame others for whatever's going on, whatever's wrong in the world or wrong in their life, not take much responsibility for anything. So in the end, it makes you really get less love from people, not more. So again, all of these saboteurs, they're kind of have these little lies that they're promising us, these breadcrumbs of making our lives better. But in the long run, through all these negative emotions that result, we end up worse off, not better off. So there is a free saboteur assessment that Shirzad has developed that is available at positiveintelligence.com. Some of you may have already taken it. We don't have time to right now to stop and do it, but if you're watching the replay or if you're on here live, this is your homework. So, and if somebody would be willing to type this link into the chat for folks to copy, I would appreciate it. It's www.positiveintelligence.com/assessments. And so this is just a quick 5-minute assessment you can do to figure out which saboteurs are strongest for you. So I'm curious, real quick, just want to pause and type in the chat for me, which of these saboteurs resonate with you most? And I'm going to see, I actually have to figure out now how to access my chat. I think I'm going to have to stop sharing for a moment so that I can do that. You can see that there is something in the chat. I don't know what it is. So anyway, type in here for me if there are saboteurs that resonate with you. And I'm trying to figure out right now what's going on with my Zoom and why it won't let me out of screen sharing. Hold on a second. There it is. All right. So now I see Michelle. Welcome, Michelle. Definitely Stickler. Shelley says all of them at some stage in life, but right now controller and procrastinator. So sounds like some avoider in there, Shelley. Michelle says occasionally victim. Somebody else shared avoider. Lucy says avoider and restless. Yeah. So a lot of these saboteurs work in conjunction with each other. They really tag team off of each other, and the judge really rules them all. All right, so thank you for sharing that. I'm going to try to go back to my screen share here. Bear with me again. All right, you guys seeing my screen? Give me a thumbs up. Thank you. All right, so saboteur assessment, I saw somebody drop that in the chat. Thank you very much. That is your homework. So when you do the saboteur assessment, here's what you'll get. You'll get basically a list of your top saboteurs. Don't worry too much about the numbers, because the number in some ways is more a factor of like how strong your judge is when you're answering the questions. So some people, their highest will be 3, and some people their highest will be 9, and it doesn't necessarily, you can't really compare your results to someone else's, but it will give you a sense that within yourself what your relative saboteurs are. You'll get a readout or a report from Positive Intelligence that goes into more detail about each one. So it is a really cool tool to just gain that level of awareness. All right, so a little bit more about our saboteurs and Sage here. They actually live in 2 totally different parts of the brain. It's really is kind of like we almost have 2 different brains in there. The saboteurs with the negative emotions live in the brain stem, the limbic system, parts of the left brain, tends to be our more primitive parts of our brain, that fight, flight, or freeze response. Whereas the sage powers live in our middle prefrontal cortex, our empathy circuitry, parts of the right brain that are associated with that higher level thinking, executive function, creativity, all of those kinds of things. So there literally is different circuitry in our brains for these different saboteur emotions. So the saboteurs might motivate you. In fact, many people have been highly motivated throughout their lives by saboteurs. They can push, push, push. Your judge telling you, well, you're not good enough. You got to do this next thing. You got to have this next accomplishment. but they motivate you through negative emotions. So making you feel fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, insecurity, all that bad kind of stuff, just kind of like a really critical parent or something, where you might, are a really strict teacher in school, where maybe you will behave or maybe you will end up getting the A, or accomplishing the thing, but you're being pushed by these negative emotions and this fear. By contrast, the sage motivates you through positive emotions, empathy, curiosity, creativity, passion, love, all these good things that pull you towards your goals. So you may have experienced this when you're in that state that they call flow, where you're creating something, you're doing work that you love, you're engaging in art or music or nature or something, where you just almost you lose a sense of time, and you're just really in the moment and in the experience and being propelled, and you end up doing it a lot or accomplishing something and having a great experience, and you're being pulled by these sage emotions. So again, the saboteurs might generate success. There's certainly a lot of successful people in the workforce, in academia, in their wherever it is in their life, where they've ticked a lot of boxes off, but many of them are very unhappy because they're constantly plagued by these negative voices pushing them. Whereas your sage brain, when you can really tap into your sage powers, that's what's going to generate your highest success and your sustained happiness. So, a question often comes up at this point: are negative emotions good for you? So some people will argue like, oh, well, anger can be good, because when we get angry about all the injustices in the world, then it, motivates us to act, or something like that. So I would ask, is pain good for you? I'm going to share a pretty visceral image here of what pain is all about: putting your hand on the hot stove. So pain is good for you for that split second that you touch the stove and the pain tells you, no, don't do that. Because if the pain wasn't there and you left your hand on the stove, you would melt your hand, and that would be a very bad day. So negative emotions, like pain, are they're an alert signal. They're giving us information. Negative emotions might be alerting us that a value of ours has been stepped on, that something's wrong. They're saying, hey, look, pay attention here, something's not right. But if we stay in negative emotions, just like if we keep our hand on the hot stove, then we're not actually able to move into really finding an effective and a healthy way to solve whatever that problem is that's come up for us. So negative emotions are only helpful for 1 second as an alert signal. Now, most of us, be honest, stay in negative emotions a lot longer than 1 second, but really that's what they're there for. Just, hey, something's up here. But staying in those negative emotions hurts our ability to see clearly and to respond with empathy, curiosity, creativity, or laser focused action. So if you're in a negative emotion, you are experiencing a saboteur. I'll say that one more time. Negative emotion equals saboteur. That's how you'll know that a saboteur, one of those 10 saboteurs in you, or a combination of them, has been activated, is if you're experiencing any of those negative emotions that we've talked about. All right, so that's a little bit about the saboteurs, and learning how to identify them and intercept them. So now we're going to talk a bit about the sage. So again, the sage lives in the region of our brain that's associated with our positive emotions, our sense of peace and calm, our clear-headed focus, creativity, and big picture thinking. And the sage operates from the sage perspective. So what's the sage perspective? The sage perspective is that every outcome or circumstance can be turned in to a gift and opportunity. I'll say that one more time because it's kind of a hard one to actually wrap our heads around. Every outcome or circumstance can be turned into a gift and opportunity, whether or not we may initially think of that outcome or circumstance as being positive or negative or whatever it is. So I'm going to share a story with you to really illustrate the sage perspective. This is called the Stallion Story. I believe it comes from a rural part of China. And so as the Stallion Story goes, there is a farmer that lives in a village, and he has this beautiful stallion, and he takes the stallion to a competition, and the stallion wins first prize. So he comes back home, and all the neighbors come out and they celebrate with him, and they say, wow, congratulations, this is so amazing, your stallion won first prize, this must feel wonderful. And the farmer's response is a little curious. He says, well, who knows what is good and what is bad? So the neighbors go away, scratching their heads a little bit. And then a week or so goes by, and there's a band of bandits that come through the village. And in the middle of the night, they come to the farmer's stables and they steal this prize stallion. They've heard how valuable it is. And the next day, everybody realizes the stallion's gone. The neighbors, community come out. Oh my gosh, this is so horrible. You've lost your prize stallion. Oh, what are you going to do now? This is tragic. And the farmer just sort of calmly says, well, who knows what is good and what is bad? So the neighbors, again, well, a little curious about this guy and what's going on. Another week or so goes by in this village, and the farmer's out in his fields working, and all of a sudden, across the horizon, he sees his stallion just trotting around along the field, and behind the stallion is a whole herd of beautiful mares. And so now the farmer's not only got his stallion back, who's broken free somehow from captivity, but the stallion's brought all these beautiful mares, and the farmer's got all these horses now. And the neighbors come along and celebrate. Oh my goodness, this is wonderful. Your stallion's back. You've got all these beautiful horses. You're a very lucky man. And the farmer just kind of calmly says, well, who knows what is good and what is bad? Neighbors by now might be starting to think this man is a little bit deranged. What's going on here? But anyway, another week or so goes by, and the farmer's young adult son is out trying to tame one of the mares, and he gets bucked off of the horse, falls, breaks a leg. Oh, again, the friends and neighbors come by. Oh, what a tragedy. We're so sorry that this happened. This is terrible. This is bad. And the farmer, unsurprisingly at this point, says, well, who knows what is good and what is bad? Neighbors grumble off again this time, and by now you're figuring out this is a very eventful village, and a week or so goes by again, and suddenly war has broken out throughout the countryside, and the military is coming into the village and recruiting all of the able-bodied young men to go off to war. And as it so happens, the farmer's son has a broken leg and is not able to go off and fight. And the neighbors, of course, rejoice. And oh my goodness, what good fortune! Your son doesn't have to go off and fight and risk being killed. And the farmer, as we know by now, responds in his usual way. Who knows what is good and what is bad? So that is the end of the story for now. But let me ask you a question. Which of these perspectives is true? Is it the saboteur that says this is bad, bad, bad? Or is it the sage that maybe can say this is a gift? And the answer is whichever perspective that you believe is the one that comes true. So that was the sage perspective. So let's talk about the different 5 sage powers that help you see the gift and the opportunity in different circumstances. So the 5 sage powers, again, were developed through this breakthrough research based on factor analysis. That just like there are only 3 primary colors, like we saw before, there are only 5 primary positive powers. So these 5 powers, plus that saboteur interceptor muscle and the self-command that we'll be talking about, they recombine to form all of the different emotional intelligence competencies that are critical to both performance and wellness. So beginning to see how this PQ framework is really an operating system behind other frameworks like emotional intelligence that have many, many more, different different combinations of things. So the 5 sage powers are empathize, explore, innovate, navigate, and activate. And I don't have time today to get into all 5 powers in detail. I will share a little bit with you later about an opportunity to really dive into this deeper. But real quickly, so the empathize power is really our ability to obviously to empathize with other people and to kind of be able to see the human and the child within them. So even people that we disagree with, people that have very different viewpoints, people that might hurt us or anger us. Even empathizing with ourselves can be so, so difficult. So really by just kind of looking at the core essence of ourselves or of somebody else, thinking of that person as a child, what they might have been through to get them where they are in their life. That's the core of our empathy power. The explore power is all about curiosity. So curiosity and fascination with the world around us. So if we use the example of the political climate that is so divided in the US and in many parts of the world today, and that, when it can be very difficult nowadays to try to talk to or understand people who fundamentally disagree with us on certain issues. We can practice empathy for them, and we can also practice our explore power, which is curiosity. Getting curious about why this person thinks or acts the way they do. What's important to them? What are their values that they're honoring with that? So both of those powers can really help in, in the world that we live in today. The innovate power is our ability to find creative solutions to problems, to think outside the box. There's a really cool game called the Yes and game that I play with folks, both with my one-on-one clients and inside of my programs and memberships, where it's like a brainstorming activity where you kind of go back and forth brainstorming ideas. And the idea is to find the 10% that's right about somebody's suggestion and build off of that. So even when you really think something's a bad idea or somebody's just, a little bit cuckoo, see if you can find the 10% that's actually right about what they're saying and say what you like about that and build off of that. So really fun way to find creative solutions to things. The navigate power is really all about what's important in the big picture. So the navigate power, we kind of look back as if we were at the end of our lives looking back when we're trying to make a decision about what to prioritize, what's important. And it's about really like, for example, if you're at work and you're under deadline and you're feeling pressure to stay late at the office or keep working on a project, but you have a child that has a soccer game and they're really excited for you to be there and you don't know what to do, you're feeling torn. You could use the navigate power. Think of yourself at the end of your life looking back. What decision is going to matter to you the most? What's going to be most important? You can use it with small things and with making big things, like whether to move to a certain place or change your career or whatever it may be. And then the activate power. The activate power is obviously all about getting into action. It's that clear, laser-focused Jedi mindset kind of action. So really tapping into your inner Jedi. The activate power can be really helpful when, for those of us who have a strong avoider, and there are some tricks that we use to activate it. Even just putting yourself in kind of like a Jedi warrior stance can sometimes channel the energy for you of getting into action. So I know I've just touched on those, but again, I'll be sharing an opportunity to learn more about this. So that is the sage power. Whoops. And then the third mental muscle to build for our mental fitness, and this is the key, is the self-command muscle. So I'll say a little bit about self-command. So here's a picture of some neurons hanging out here. And so when an event happens, whatever it is that happens that we might normally perceive as good or bad or whatever, whether it's something small or something big, our brain goes through this neurocircuitry and comes to a fork in the road. And for many of us, we have a very well-worn pathway down the negative fork in the road of the saboteur thoughts, getting into fear, getting into all of these negative emotions, thinking, maybe the worst is going to happen. But actually, when we're at that fork in the road, if we can train our brain to pause, we can actually choose to go down the sage neural pathway. And the more that we do that, the more that we train our brains to actually recognize those saboteur thoughts, make the pause, which is the self-command part, and then switch to our sage brains, we can actually start to deepen these new neural pathways into the sage mindset. So, if you've been down a rutted dirt road or a very well-worn hiking path, you know how travel erodes those things over time and makes it very easy to go down that pathway. We have to build, and that's the part of the mental fitness part, building these muscles to train our brains towards a new neural pathway. So the key here, and what I'm going to teach you in a moment, is to do what we call PQ reps. So PQ rep allows us to pause in the moment when we notice those saboteur thoughts coming up and really choose whether to go down the saboteur highway or take the lovely winding sage path. Again, the saboteur is going to tell us that this thing is bad that just happened, and the sage is going to be able to find eventually a way that this is a gift. So I'm going to take 2 minutes now and show you how to practice these PQ reps that are at the foundation of the self-command muscle. So take a moment and just kind of settle into where you're sitting, wherever it is. And when you're ready, just go ahead and close your eyes. And just start to tune your attention into your breath. Now notice the rising and falling of your chest or stomach. With each breath, and notice the temperature of air as it enters your nostrils and the temperature of air as it exits your nostrils. Now bring your attention to your beautiful toes, wherever they may be. And wiggle your toes. Maybe they're inside your shoes or touching the ground or the floor. See how many of those beautiful toes you can find. And notice the sensations. And now bring your attention to your hands and take 2 of your fingers and just gently rub them together with such attention. You can almost feel the fingertip ridges on both fingers. And really tune in and just notice all those sensations of touch. Now take the fingertips of one hand and rub them against the fingertips and the palm of the other hand, just very slowly. Allowing yourself to notice all those sensations. Now you can relax your body again and bring your attention to your ears. See if you can tune in to the farthest away sound that you're able to hear right now. And now bring your attention closer and see what is the closest sound you're able to hear. And it might even be the sound of your own breathing. Or in my case, my dog, who's just seen somebody pull into the neighbor's driveway. All right, and when you're ready, start to gently open your eyes. And just take a look at, my ears are still trained on my dog right now. Baxie, it's okay. Start to notice the image in front of you. So notice the colors, the shapes, and just do some visual PQ reps on what's happening on the screen in front of you. Different shades, different textures. When you're ready, bring your attention back into the room. I don't know if you can hear her, but I urgently need to let my dog out. So I'm going to give you a minute to just type in the chat and share what your experience was during those few minutes of PQ reps we just shared. And I'll be back in just a second to check on your comments. All right, I'm coming back. Gotta love live TV here. I have to figure out how to unshare my screen again so that I can see the chat. All right, let's see. Lucy said that the PQ reps made her feel relaxed and tingling. I'm curious, anybody else, what you noticed? If you want to type something into the chat. These PQ reps really bring us into the present moment. That's how they work, is by, yeah, Lisa says calmness. So you might have noticed, like, if you tend to be a thinker, an overthinker, and always have thoughts going on, bringing our attention to our senses for a couple minutes just really does calm that brain and bring us into the present, because all of our worry is thinking about the future. All of our like depression, rumination, things like that is thinking about the past. When we can really bring ourselves into the present moment, then we are able to switch into our sage parts of our brain. So thank you all for sharing. I'm going to go back to the screen here and just try to finish up my slides in the next few minutes, because we do have some special guests here as well that are going to share a little bit about their experience doing this practice. So the simplicity of this PQ operating system is, here's how it works. And write this down if you want to practice this at home. Number one, if you're feeling negative emotions, stop. It means that you are in saboteur mode. Negative emotion equals saboteur, whether that's anger, sadness, guilt, shame, fear, all of those things. Number two, do some of these PQ reps to quiet your saboteurs and activate your sage. You could do the PQ reps we've just practiced. You can just do one of them. You don't have to do all of them. You can just rub your two fingers together, or really look at the face of the person that you're speaking to and notice the lines on their face or the color of their eyes. You can apply this in any number of ways. It's not just the exercises we just did, but bring your attention to whatever it is that is in front of you at the moment. Activate your sage brain. And then number 3, assume the sage perspective that every problem can be converted into a gift and opportunity. And number 4, generate that gift using the sage powers like the empathy, curiosity, creativity, and calm, clear-headed action. So, question, is it really possible to just shift from saboteur to sage, even in really tough challenges? And the answer is yes, but the depth of that shift, the speed of that shift is going to really depend on those mental muscles that you've built up and how strong they are. Lasting positive change requires only 20% insight, actually. It is 80% mental muscle, which is building these new neural pathways that we just learned about. So insight is things like, okay, you watch this webinar, you take some notes, you have some aha moments, or maybe at work, you go to a retreat or something, or you learn something new and, you have all these little breakthroughs. But what happens over time, the problem with those little insight methods is that the initial positive results of those workshops and trainings will mostly evaporate over time. So it might be a few days or weeks or months, after you've been to a big seminar and gotten them really inspired, you'll kind of start to slide back into your old habits if you don't build up the mental muscles to sustain the change that you want in your life. So success with this requires intense initial practice. Just doing 2 minutes of PQ reps isn't going to get you there once upon a time. But if you sustain this practice for about 15 minutes a day total for 6 to 8 weeks, that's what Shirzad's research shows, actually starts to change your brain. And that 15 minutes can be just 2 or 3 minute little increments whenever you notice your negative emotions coming up. So another bit of homework. We won't do this now, but if you're curious about your mental muscle strength, and if you haven't done this already, take the PQ score assessment. This is again a feature at Shirzad's website, www.positiveintelligence.com/PQ-score. So write that down. I'll make sure I send this out on an email to the folks who registered today. And if somebody is willing to drop that in the chat, that would be really helpful as well. So I'm going to share a little bit about my experience with this practice. Back in March 9th, actually, which was kind of, it was like right before we really, in the United States anyway, knew that the pandemic was going to be really bad. It was kind of, people were still sort of in denial. There weren't any state of emergencies or anything. But that's when I started this work, actually. And even through all the therapy and personal development and coach training and everything I've done, like I scored 27 out of 100 on this PQ score assessment. So only 20% of the time was I living in my sage, and 73% of the time I was in saboteur mode. So I went through Shirzad's 6-week program this spring in April and May, actually, as the pandemic was really getting bad and scary. And I retook the assessment on May 23rd, and I scored 80 out of 100. So really in just a little over 2 months between the two assessments, even with everything going on in the world, I greatly increased my PQ score. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about how did I do it. I was able to take a 6-week positive intelligence course with Shirzad himself that includes a weekly video lesson, a PQ app where you actually get reminders throughout the day to do these PQ reps and to do different activities. Has a little gym that you can do the exercises throughout the day. There was an accountability pod that I was a part of some folks. Some were friends, some were new friends. And we checked in every day about our practice to hold each other accountable. And so this is a course that Shirzad offers on his website for $1,000 or $995 or something like that. Okay, but that's a lot of money. So what I ended up doing is, because I'm a trained coach and I did this training with Shirzad, I was able to sign up to become one of actually the first cohort of PQ Pioneer coaches. So I've been in training with Shirzad actually since then to master this material, and it allows me to offer this full 6-week program that I took with him. I can offer it to my clients and community at a fraction of the cost, and I offer additional coaching support within a private Facebook community. So it's really double the value, because instead of doing it on your own, like if you just go to Shirzad's website and buy the program, you're kind of on your own with your pod, but through my program, you actually get my support as a trained PQ coach, and I'm working with Shirzad every week to master these skills and to learn how to coach people in them. So I'm offering a 6-week positive intelligence program that is Shirzad's program with my support. It's starting very soon on November 2nd. And it includes these 1-hour weekly video lessons that are released every Saturday, starting October 31st. So you have from Saturday to Monday to watch the lesson every week. Then you do your 15 minutes or so a day total of practice on the app, doing these PQ reps. You have a weekly 30-minute pod meeting with about 3 to 5 pod members that you just share how you're experiencing the program and hold each other accountable to keep doing it, because your saboteurs are going to tell you like, oh, you don't need this, or I don't have time. I don't have time for this, you know. Your pod's there to really hold you accountable. And we have a Facebook group where I am active in answering all of your questions, excuse me, and providing supplemental material. And we also have our PQ alumni, a couple of whom I think are still hopefully here today, who are there to support you. We're all on the same journey, and we help each other through this group. So the value of the program, again, Shirzad's class, about $9.95. You get this app for 2 months. It's normally $37 a month, but you can only get it with the program. The Facebook group, $495 value. Your pod is priceless, so you're getting over a $1,500 program. And for this round, this year, I'm charging only $497 for the 6-week program with all the support. So you're paying half of what you would pay to do it on your own with Shirzad. And I'm offering that this year because of the huge challenges facing people around the globe right now. And the price will be going up when I won't be offering it again until 2021, and the price will be going up, but I've decided to try to keep it affordable now so that we can share this work with as many people as possible. So I want to introduce you to some of the folks who've been through the program already and tell you a little bit about what they've said, because I can tell you all I want, but this is other real people that have done this work. And again, a couple of them are here today, and I'll give them a chance to speak in a moment. But this is Vivian. She said this program provides super supportive framework to do some of the hard work we need to do to lead the life we've always wanted. This program's serious about creating good lifelong mind habits. And even better, it's backed up by the science, and the impacts on myself and my relationships have been immediate. I love the app. The daily reminders and short exercises are perfect for someone who feels they don't have time in their schedule. I love the pods for deeper sharing and mutual support. I love the support Liz provides to the group. I love the whole thing. It is so worth every single penny of investment. All right, I want to introduce you to Florence. Florence is in the UK. She said, I've been loving doing the program. I'm calmer, less stressed, more interested in everything. The techniques you learn are incredibly powerful and simple, and I'm sure will stay with me throughout my life. The work is challenging but enjoyable. I found myself talking about it to everyone I can. And Flo has actually sent some of her friends through the program as well, which is great. Here's Donna. Donna's in the US, in Connecticut. She says, this program is something everyone needs in their life. Even though I feel I've been better about controlling my emotions and reactions over the past year, this program's helped me to become more aware of the why and how the emotions and reactions come about. I feel now that I have a better understanding of the why and how. I'm no longer controlling these thoughts, but using them as tools to create more positive experiences. We have Andrea, who is in Scotland, I believe, still. I think she's here today. I can't see the list of people right now, but hopefully we'll get to hear from her in a moment. She said, this is a program I think everyone should do to gain more self-awareness and to a large extent to take back control of one's own reactions. Prior to starting the PQ program with Liz, I felt like I already was quite in tune with my emotions and not letting them get the better of me in negative situations. So I was unsure whether or not to join the program, partially also scared of the time commitment. However, in the end, I realized that I was going to learn that what I was going to learn about in these few weeks would have a lifelong positive impact. Already, I noticed a positive change in my reactions to situations happening around me. It really is eye-opening and includes many aha moments. Thank you, Andrea. And then we also have Hope, who I believe is here today as well and can share a little more with us. She recently completed the program and said, positive intelligence saved me from myself. Prior to going through positive intelligence, I was in private counseling. The CBT techniques were not getting me any results, and I was frustrated. My goal in private counseling was to be able to identify negative thoughts that were contributing to me spiraling into anxiety. I'd even just finished a 4-week group session with paid counselors and ended it in tears because I still could not identify why I was so anxious. After 1 week in positive intelligence, my anxiety and body pain reduced by 50%. I had not been officially diagnosed with fibromyalgia, but my doctors were suspect of it. After completing the program, I no longer have the constant pains, and I know I do not have fibromyalgia. My all over body pain was caused by constant anxiety. Now, when I feel any pain, I stop to identify what saboteur thoughts I'm having, to quickly quiet my thoughts and transition to more sage thinking to work through my circumstance. 7 weeks was just the tip of the iceberg. I've committed to continue to practice all the new skills I've learned with positive intelligence to make this a lifelong habit for my emotional health and well-being. So thank you for those. So I'm going to, I think we have some of those folks here. I'm going to stop my share and just see if, let's see, Andrea and Hope, I think are still here. And let's see, are either of you willing to unmute yourselves and just say a little bit more about your experience in the program? Because, you know, I think for folks who are thinking about doing this, you know, you can take what you've learned in this webinar and you can certainly apply it without going through the program if you're very diligent about it. But the program is designed for the majority of us who really don't tend to stick with things because our saboteurs are getting the better of us. So let's see, I see Hope hopping on here. I'm going to switch to my view so that I can see her and hear her, and Andrea's here as well. So let's just have them share a little bit about what they got out of being a part of this community. So Hope, go for it.
Hi, Liz.
Hey, good to
Thanks
see you.
for giving me the opportunity. My friend Lisa, hopefully she says she's here on listening, so hopefully she can hear me and and
All
she has a moment
right.
to listen. Yeah. So yeah, I mean you just shared everything that I just, I had written there at the end of the program, and it was it's definitely changed things for me, and definitely I haven't arrived in any sense. There's still saboteurs and still things to identify and deal with. In fact, one of the two that I was working on that were big ones were hyperachiever and avoider. And during those 7 weeks, I really focused on those, and they're still there. But I didn't really focus on any of the other ones, and I'm noticing now that it's like the stickler and the controller, and I know there's one over I'm forgetting right this moment, but anyway, are still very, right now I'm really struggling with those, and I just keep going to the app and going to the gym and just trying to use the mindfulness techniques like you showed at the beginning, one of them to help kind of just get me back into the sage mind. And I am hearing the sage a lot more. I've noticed that, wow, I'm having some of these opportunities, where I get more clarity in my thinking, and I'm not going into the spiraling down. And I kind of can stop myself and say, wait a minute, why are you talking to yourself like this? Why are you thinking this way? And then I can, and then address it, and get into the gym or whatever it is I need to do. So yeah, I as far as the thing, my doctors had not, had conclusively said, yes, you have fibromyalgia, but I was just always having, so, no energy. And I mean, I had all over body pain. Like, I mean, if you just touched my arms, I would like jump because it hurt so bad. And legs, same thing. And just all over achiness. And I was taking ibuprofen, all kinds of things. And I noticed, I mean, that's something that's very obvious when you don't have any pain anymore, that you're like, wow, the only thing that I've done differently is doing these PQ reps. So it did, it's, the pain's not completely gone, and but it's definitely uh a lot less. I have more energy, which has been able to help me get towards some of my goals, to get back to working out. I'm not completely working out yet, but I've been probably for about 2 weeks now, been doing stretches consistently every day.
Wow.
And it feels good. It feels good that I'm accomplishing something, and I'm making strides. So that's my and I remember, I don't know if it was Elaine, she was one who came on at the very beginning when I was on the call like this. And
Mhm.
she told me, I asked her, I was like, well, how long before you saw any results? Because, I had just been in that private counseling and all that, and 4 weeks of group counseling, and just not seeing results. And I was to the point of, I need something to help me. And she said a week. And, I was like, oh, she's probably just, maybe it really wasn't a week, but maybe she had to say that. But it really is true. It really is true. And so after the first week, that just consoled me, like, oh my gosh, I've gotten more accomplished in this 1 week than I have in 2 years of all the other stuff that I've tried. So it's definitely a good program.
Wow, thank you so much, Hope. That is incredible. And just, man, the connection of our minds and our bodies, and the fact that you were able to rid yourself of all of that physical pain that you and your doctors thought might be like a real, serious medical condition, and it was all triggered by the anxiety. I mean, that's just like, it's mind blowing. And of course, like, it's a work in progress for all of us. We're not going to get there in 6 weeks. I mean, this is a lifetime practice of building these muscles to get to the point of of really being able to instantly switch to the sage. But yeah, you've shown up, you've done the work, and it is incredible. I think that first week, it's like, for people who really dive in, it's just that whole shift in your mindset of being able to separate out these negative thoughts from yourself, instead of thinking like, well, I'm a failure or I'm bad. It's like, oh, my judge is saying that. There's this, like, saboteur inside of me that's telling me these shitty things. It's not true. It's not me.
One of my goals in my private counseling was to be able to identify where it was I could start, spiraling down in my anxiety. And prior to even in the counseling, I still wasn't able to do it, even after going through those weeks. And that's why I was just so like, oh my God, I was in tears, and I'm never going to be able to accomplish this. I'm not going to be able to work. And then I think for me, I'm a visual learner, and even though some of this isn't visual, it's, it has a visual, being identified, like name something, that to me is a visual, um mentally. And so by being able to do that, I think that's what really helped me. And then I really could start to see the thoughts, because I wasn't seeing before. In fact, I would have told you, I'm not having any negative thoughts. I'm a pretty positive person. So
Uh,
anyway, I know I am, and now I'm seeing it more than I was before. And it still sneaks up on me, and I really have to, like, what's going on here? What is the story that's going on right here in my mind?
yeah. Well,
Why I'm feeling like this?
that's a really interesting thing. I want to pick up on what you just said, that like, you didn't really identify as a negative person. I mean, like, sometimes those are the most insidious saboteurs, are the ones that kind of say like, everything's fine, when you're not really even in tune with what's going on underneath the surface. And the benefits of this program, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're this like person coming in that's just constantly, negative and complaining about everything. Like, you might think that things are okay, but there's still like fears and other things, judgments and things happening underneath the surface that you can really benefit from, from uncovering. And it certainly takes courage and bravery to do this work, because there are folks who aren't ready to do it. I mean, there are sometimes folks who come into the program and then some on some surface level end up being like, not for me, and they kind of, they don't do the work and they don't see the benefits. So you hope are someone who really dug in, and I can relate as well to the experience of being in therapy. For me, it was like 4 or 5 years before I did this program, and kind of talking about the same things over and over again, but not actually feeling any relief really, until I learned this framework. So thank you so much. Thank you for all of your sharing. It's great to have you here. And I
You're
believe,
welcome. It was my pleasure.
all right. And I believe we have an Andrea as well. Andrea, are you able to jump on and speak to us for a moment? I know you're both in the middle of your work days. I appreciate you taking the time to be here.
Hello, I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you. You're a little bit quiet. We don't see your video, but I'm guessing maybe you're in the middle of something.
Yeah, no, video won't be happening, unfortunately. I'm really sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
But yeah, I just wanted to follow up on actually what you already shared, Liz, the fact that I already felt like I was quite in tune with what was happening around me and that I could empathize with people and all of this kind of stuff. And now in hindsight, and I still keep realizing how little I am in touch with some of my emotions and how little I know myself, or it's for me it was all about realizing why I react or what I'm reacting to. If, say, someone says something which isn't even negative, but for some reason that triggers something in you, which makes me go, oh, okay, then, and this program was really good for me in that sense, because I properly realized like those saboteurs who came in, and I could identify them. I could identify who it was, like which saboteur it was. And then maybe I haven't found the reason for it, but at least I can realize it and I can check myself and I can see the, I guess, like the positiveness and the reason of my reaction, rather than just letting it take me over and it turning into a situation which I never wanted to have it turn into.
Mm.
So that's not just helped me in my personal life in terms of my relationships and seeing how something may have affected a personal relationship which I never wanted it to affect in that way, but also in my work life, like what I do to myself, the amount of stress I put myself under when I don't need to. It's what Hope was talking about as well, the spiral, like, whoa, why are you going down this complete negative thought process? Like there's absolutely no reason to. I had a call with my boss and I was so scared. I was like, oh my God, he's going to fire me, because I just didn't manage to start like publish all of these things which I was supposed to do. And then the call was just a normal catch-up call. And through the PQ program, I actually, before the call, I did all of the PQ reps and I calmed down and I got into my PQ, my sage mind, and it was so much better than I had anticipated. And I realized once again how these saboteurs had just come in and made me so anxious. But what I also wanted to add, Liz, is because I was listening into a lot of the call, and as soon as you started doing the PQ reps, I just automatically tuned in, and my breathing became so calm, and I became oh, it was wonderful. It's always so nice to do them with a whole group. But yeah, overall, what I want to add is that this program has really taught me, and I'm still learning, to trust myself, but also to listen to myself and my gut feelings, and not to those negative emotions which keep pulling you down
Mm.
and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much, Andrea. And I remember when you were going through the program this summer, as I recall, you were experiencing some significant career changes because of the pandemic. Would you be willing to say a little bit about that and how you used the program to get through that?
Yeah, so I worked in hospitality before Corona, and it was and so I lost my job because of it. But when the news came through that my contract wouldn't be extended, I was quite shocked. But immediately I managed to see it as as an opportunity to get into more sustainable things, like to follow what I am really interested in and what I want to support. So it was really, people turned around to me and said, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and I'm like, I kind of I wasn't happy. I think happy would be too much, but I really saw the positive side in things rather than jumping immediately to the negative. Um, yeah, and that's where this change, this noticing of the reaction of how you react to situations was, which I learned through the PQ program, was just fabulous. Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, it's, we've had, of course, like I've been running this program this year as people have been experiencing a lot of different things through the pandemic and then just normal things that happen in life. And it's been really incredible watching folks move through those transitions while they're in the program and be able to apply the skills. So thank you so much for sharing a bit about your experience. Hope says in the comments, yes, Andrea, I realized I come to the worst conclusion first and then automatically react from there. I'm my own worst enemy. Positive intelligence and my sage are now my allies. Yay. I may have missed a few things in the chat here. Unfortunately, the way Zoom is set up for me, I can't see the chat when I'm on the slides, but I'm going to hop quickly back onto the slides and then I'll open it up for Q&A. I know we had a bunch of folks here earlier. Some have had to drop off. I do want to say thank you so much to our PQ alumni. If you do want to stick around for a minute for the Q&A, if folks have questions and you want to help answer them, that would be great if you're able to. But let me just jump back and I'll finish up the slides so folks can learn where to get more information about this program. So the logistics, basically, if you want to sign up to join us for this next round of the 6-week PQ program, just go to my website, unperfectionism.com, just like it sounds. The registration deadline is this Friday, October 23rd, and that's so that I have a week because I have to get everybody set up in the app and everything before we start at the beginning of November. So the end of the day, Eastern time, Friday, 11:59 p.m. Eastern, the doors will close. So if you are interested, please jump on, join us. Again, this special 50% off discount is not going to be available next year. So if this is something that sparks something in you, I would really encourage you to just go for it. Get your saboteurs out of the way for a minute and come sign up and join us. I do this because I love seeing the transformations that it makes in people. And so I want you to have that transformation as well if you feel like this would be supportive for you. Our first weekly video, again, October 31st, and your pod meetings will kick off the week of November 2nd. I'll spend the next week or so getting you connected with your pod. So in summary, we have 3 core muscles of mental fitness. We have our saboteur interceptor, learning to identify these 10 different tendencies that we have and be able to stop when we notice that we're in those negative emotions. We have our 5 sage powers plus the sage perspective to help us shift and realize that anything that happens can actually be turned into a gift and opportunity. And we have our self-command muscle, our PQ reps that we build, and that's how we build those new neural pathways, by continuing to practice really these mini mindfulness moments that bring us into the present and allow us to shift into love, empathy, and compassion. So again, you can get the info at unperfectionism.com. And I know a bunch of people have had to jump off who've said thank you in the comments, but we have a couple people still here live. So I'm going to stop screen share and just see if there is anybody who has any questions that you'd either like to ask. You can feel free to unmute yourself or type in the chat. And just if there's anything else you'd like to know about this PQ framework or about the 6-week program. And if you're watching the replay, I'm happy to answer your questions as well. Wherever you see this video posted, you can just type in there, or you can reach me, liz@unperfectionism.com. Happy to answer as many questions as you have to figure out if this opportunity is the right fit for you. So we'll give a moment, just let folks think. And I'm not seeing anything come in right now. I hope you're still with us. Is there any final thoughts you'd like to share? Any words of wisdom to folks who might be thinking about whether to do this? They might be saying, well, I don't know if I have the time. I don't know if I have the money. Like, what would you say to folks who are on the fence right now, Hope?
I would say it's worth the investment in yourself. If you're not happy, if you're struggling, um, if nothing else has worked, look at maybe all the money that was spent up until this point. And I know it might be a big investment now, all at once, because that was all cumulative. But it really does get results right away. I mean, it's not like, the first day, but literally after the first week. And and then another thing I forgot to say was, I decided, the first time I took the assessment, or I'm not sure, PQ assessment, whatever it is, I scored an 8 out of 100. 8. That's how much anxiety I have. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to check after the first week to see how, where am I at? Am I still at an 8? What am I? And I was at a 38 out of 100. Now, after you go through the course and everything, you'll see that like 75 to, I think, 85 or 80 or something like that is, or well, obviously 100, but I don't know that anybody ever gets to 100. But
Right.
anyway, 75 or so and above is the optimal range. Well, I haven't achieved that yet, and I probably need to go back and take it again, because I haven't done it since that one time I took it at 38. But anyway, I mean, that to me was proof after 1 week that, it had shifted my mindset that much in a positive way, that I was just like, I have to do this, because if not, I'm going to, I don't want to say kill myself, but kill my, not, like physically, like suicidal, but I'm killing myself mentally when I don't, with the thoughts that I was on, the thought track I was on before. So I was destroying myself, and I wasn't happy, and I wasn't achieving the things that I wanted to achieve. And I knew something had to change, and that's, and this program does help with that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and if folks look on my website, my about me page, like, I mean, I've had very, very severe mental health issues like within the last 5 years or so. And I've been at that very dark place as well. And and I notice now, I mean, I don't go there anymore, thankfully. But when I do see my brain like starting to kind of go towards that, it's almost like I can stand back now as an observer. And instead of getting sucked into the vortex of that, those negative thought patterns, that saboteur thinking, it's like I'm kind of watching it happen and getting curious about it and being like, oh, like that's what my brain does. It doesn't always stop me from getting sucked in somewhat emotionally, but I can recover faster. There's just more awareness about it. And the more we practice this over weeks, months, years, the stronger that this gets. And it's not to say there won't be dips. We all go through, a lot of different circumstances in our lives, and, things like hormones that make us feel better or feel worse at different times and all that. But these tools really, for folks that are willing to, put in the work to do this, in my experience, it really does work. And, you know, it's funny, like, you know, sharing about a program that I'm offering, like, starts to feel like an infomercial, but it's like, you know, folks who are sharing here, like, we're all real people who have real problems that we've done this work, and, you know, we're getting these results. So,
Yeah. And if money is a hurdle, Christmas is upon us, or will soon be. So you can always say, this is what I want for Christmas, but I want my gift early.
I love that, you know, and like, yeah, I mean, for me, it's thinking of, you know, the investment in yourself, of really like asking yourself the question, okay, you know, if I do this, and if this works, even if this just works, like gets me 10 or 20% better than where I am now, like, what would that be worth to me? Like, what would it be worth to not, um, just constantly be getting sucked into this negative space? You know, it's hard to put a price tag on that, you know, like if you could just pay someone to just fix your brain, like what would that be worth? I mean, you've got to do the work. You've still got to do the work. And these are times that a lot of folks are under, you know, a real financial strain. Like that is very real. I always say, don't do it if you can't put food on the table. Like, don't do this right now. But, you know, definitely if it's something that you can make it work, now is a great time, because I am still offering it for the 50% off. And, you know, so anyway, thank you, Hope. Anybody else have any last minute questions or comments, or just insights you want to share that you got out of being here today? You can either just type something in the chat, or just unmute yourself and share real quickly before we sign off. Love to hear from you. I see we have Lucy, Lisa. Lisa, would you like to share anything or ask a question? Nope, Lisa unmuted and then remuted. So I don't know if she's trying to say something or, or is in the mute land. All right, well, I know some folks are like multitasking while they're here on this call today. Always hard to find a time that's good for everybody. So I appreciate you being here. Appreciate everyone listening. Thanks again to Andrea and Hope for joining us today and sharing. And just very grateful to have you all here. Those of you who couldn't make it live, hopefully if you've enjoyed the replay, let me know what questions you have. I'll make sure folks get a copy of this. Lucy typed in thanks. Thanks for being here, Lucy. And you know, well, let me know what questions you have privately. You can email me, and we'll hope to see you all inside the program. Sign up by Friday. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you all. Have a great day.